Welcome to the Iconics Genesis64 video guide. This video discusses the many features that are available in Genesis64. It provides an overview of how to get started with the Genesis64 product, and an introduction to some of the powerful components of GraphWorks64 and the Workbench.
Genesis64 is a suite of modules used for control and visualization of your operations. The main graphical interface is called GraphWorks64. That's the application which allows you to design your operator screens. So you can see your process points as well as alarms along with trends all in one display. Let us create a simple example here. We'll create a tank out of several rectangles. I have a first rectangle here. I will duplicate this rectangle. I'll squeeze it a bit so as we get the inner space of the tank. I'll position it a bit. I will round the corners of the shape so it's more like a window into the tank. I'll duplicate this object again because the second one will be my fill. Let's make it blue. Alright. On the left side of my screen you can see an explorer of my object. I'll have three rectangles. It's quite useful to call them by names. So this will be fill. This will be the inner space of the tank, and this will be the outer space. Good. Now I want to see the process point here on top of the tank. So I will go for the dynamic tab and I will add the process point. My data browser opens up. I will specify my server and I will go for the selected OPC server. From the other space of the OPC server, I will go for the process point that I want to show in the display. Make it a bit bigger. Okay. If I go to runtime, I can see the tank with the process point on top of it. I also want the fill to move according to its value. So I will select the fill and I will add a size dynamic to it. As a data source, I will select the same process point. Now it's a good time to point out that on the right side there is Property Explorer. You can see all the properties of the object selected here, and also the dynamic values, dynamic properties that are specified. So here I specified the dynamic size. I will specify the low limit and high limit of the value, and I will also change the clip property. If I go to runtime, I can see the liquid level in a graphical form as well as in digital. Now I will add some more controls. Let's say I will add the alarm voice viewer to see all my alarms. I'll double click it. I will select the grid. Now I have one tab here which will show me the real-time alarms. I can create a new subscription to my server. Alarms. Real-time subscription for this time. Okay. It's connected to my local alarm server. And I also want to add another tab which will show me historical alarms. I'll keep historical predefined subscription. Okay. And go to runtime. You can see this is my historical overview of my alarms here, which I can filter, sort as I want. I can also create reports out of them. And I can go also for the other tab, which shows me the current alarms going on, which I can, with a double click, I can acknowledge them again, I can filter them, sort them, and so on. I will, for instance, here select acknowledge from the menu and acknowledge all the objects. Alright, good. I will go to configuration mode again, and I will insert my trend vaults viewer to show my trend data. I'll double click it to configure it. I'll use one tab, but also again I can use multiple tabs. I will add a new plot. I will select out of multiple types of plots, for instance the second one. I will add a pen. Again I will go for the liquid level. I will change the range from 1 to 10. And also I will change the time and rate of the plot to 1 minute for the period of the trend. And the last bit what I do, I will show my legend at the bottom of my plot. Okay. I'll go to runtime. I can see the time level plotted here in the trend viewer. I may decide to go to configuration mode again and make those controls larger. So I can auto hide this property window and make it bigger. Good. My screens doesn't have to be necessarily two-dimensional. I can also add a third dimension objects to it. I'll go for home. I will add a 3D view below my controls. Here for instance. And I can either import my 3D objects of various formats, or I can use the symbol library here and insert an object from the library. So I will go for tanks, 3D tanks. We'll use, for instance, tank 4, drag it and drop it to the 3D space. Using the Alt button and the mouse wheel, I can zoom in and zoom out. With the Alt still hold down, and also with the left button of my mouse hold down, I can rotate around the object. I can do that also in runtime. The core tool for designing of screens is GraphWorks64, but there is also a workbench application in Genesis64 suite which can be also used for designing of screens, but also it can be used to maintain your configurations and the whole project on your server. If you open Workbench, first of all you can see on the left side the Project Explorer with the applications included in your project, and on the right side you can see the configuration pane. If you want to see what's included in your project and you want to edit it, then the best way is to go over the project, edit project, and see all the applications included in the project. Any application that you want to remove from the project because you don't use it, you can just select it and click remove. Later on, if you decide to put that application back, you can just click add and add it here. You can see all the applications and access them here. Or you may have noticed that another way is to go over this list. This list can be more customized with add or remove buttons command, where you can specify that, for instance, in this list you don't want to see the language aliasing or global aliasing, gentray, framework server, security server, or BACnet. Whatever you show here, there's no effect on what is shown and included in the project. So all the applications that are included in the project will still be listed underneath the Applications tab here. Let us get back to GraphWorks. If I open the GraphWorks provider here, I can see all the GraphWorks screen that I attached to my project. I may open my displays in runtime, or I can open them also in configuration mode, either in the same area or on a new tab. You can see I've got now two tabs here, one with the runtime display, second one with the display and configuration mode, where I can explore its structure, change the properties, dynamics, and so on, so on. You can also notice that there is this ribbon which is typically shown in GraphWorks 64 configuration mode, while this runtime mode has a different ribbon here. But I can have also multiple workspaces here, not only one large, but I can arrange my displays and other windows in different shapes. So I have, for instance, two displays here now. I will put this one in runtime as well, and into the third window I can place, for instance, TrendWorks, and in the last one I will show my alarms. But to view my trends or alarms or the screen, you can use GraphWorks 64, but what makes Workbench unique is the possibility to configure my servers. I can configure my TrendWorks logger, for instance. I can configure my AlarmWorks server. And this is something that I cannot do anywhere else than in Workbench. And I configure those. It's better to have a bit more space, so I will close all those windows. And I will, let's say, open the configuration of my AlarmWorks server. I can again open multiple configuration dialogues and switch between them as I need. Whenever my project is ready or I want to continue on configuration on a different site, I can pack the whole project and take it away. So I can go and proceed with the project, that I will pack this project. I will write down the name, my project, for instance. I may decide to compress the file so as it's smaller, and I can also encrypt it or protect it with a password. I will select what should be the content of the package. So I've specified some GraphWorks displays. I want to have there also my TrendWorks logger, an AlarmWorks server, and AlarmWorks logger configuration. As for the displays, I will select only my postal examples. I'll click Next, Next, and I can show the log file when the operation finishes, or I can show it later on. Now I'm waiting until all the project is packed up, all the configuration from the SQL Server and all the displays are compressed. And if I want, I have the log file which I can show. The whole package was created successfully, and I can take it away and unpack it on a different site. If you want to know more about Iconics and Genesis 64, you can have a look in help files, in application notes, white papers, and any other documents provided by Iconics, or you can also use the GenDemo. It's a suite of displays created in Genesis 64, and each of the displays try to introduce you into a different module or a topic related to Genesis 64 or Iconics. To use GenDemo, you can just click and use the navigation buttons, or you can also use jump list. You can open the carousel which is basically a suite of files that are put together, and any of them can be opened from this carousel list. So for instance, if I want to know about Genesis64 architecture, I'll just click it. If I want to know more about Workbench, I can have a look at the Workbench part. I can find out more about AlanWorks server design, TrendWorks, Hyperhistorion key features, and so on. You are free to explore any of those displays. Also, if you want to find more specific files, you can go into this list and select a carousel list that you want. So if I want to know more just about Hyperhistorion, then I will click Hyperhistorion, and new list is loaded for me. Another useful feature in GenDemo is a learning center, which is to be found here. Again, that's another carousel list. If you want to find out more about, let's say, dynamics position, then you can use the interactive display here, which will introduce you into location dynamic, rotation dynamics, or size dynamic. If you want to find out more about 3D, let's go into, let's say, 3D dynamic position and learn about it. Last part of GenDemo consists of case studies and examples. So if I click case studies here, it will open me a list or a screen with different applications in the field, and I can select any of them and explore how Genesis is used. Similarly, there are examples of Genesis64 that can be useful for you, and you can also use them as an inspiration or for your convenience. If you decide to use Iconic software, you will need a license. You can select between a software license or a hardware key, depending on your project requirement. No matter which one you will pick, you will have to activate it. The activation is done over web. Iconics created a special designated Iconics web licensing page where you can log in and maintain your licenses. If you ever need any help with the license, you don't know how to activate it, how to transfer it, you can use the info center, which is here, divided into software part and hardware part.